Today, millions of Americans have difficulty reading print. These people might have vision loss, reading disabilities, or speak English as a second language. But they all have to read their prescriptions. When it comes to making prescription pill bottles more accessible for those who are unable to read standard print, there are a few ways to go about it, such as large print, Braille, dual language, and talking labels. All of these options have the potential to help millions of Americans manage their prescriptions more effectively. So why don't more people use them? The answer is not easy to pin down. There are many reasons why a patient or pharmacy might not be aware of these accommodations, all boiling down to one simple fact: a lack of knowledge. So, here's the real question: how can I make a difference? The Americans with Disabilities Act, which has been in place since the early 1990s, protects the rights of disabled Americans to access federal, state, and public entities and services. The federal ADA law eventually became the basis for state accessibility laws. When the ADA was passed, one could only imagine the technology that exists today. Better technology now affords pharmacy patients greater access to printed prescription label information. State legislatures are now able to ensure that pharmacy patients in their state will have access to large print, audible, Braille, or translated prescription labels upon their request. This map can show the states that currently have laws in place that require pharmacies to provide accessible prescription labels to their patients upon their request. As you can see, Minnesota, Colorado, Tennessee, Virginia, Maryland, Hawaii, Puerto Rico, and California all require pharmacies to provide accessible prescription labels to their visually impaired patients upon request. New York requires pharmacies to provide a translated prescription label to their patients who speak English as a second language, while Nebraska has laws in place which will cover the cost of the translation. Meanwhile, Nevada and Oregon have taken the lead on accessibility by requiring both translated and accessible labels to pharmacy patients upon their request. The state boards of pharmacy in states like Florida, Ohio, and Washington have regulations requiring pharmacies to implement policies and procedures to accommodate blind individuals. Finally, there are states like Maine and Alaska, which have considered but not yet passed accessible prescription label bills, offering residents hope that laws may still be enacted to help them. Accessibility is catching fire and spreading across the country. Progress has been made in a few short years. But is it enough? No, not until everyone can access their prescription label information equally. Now we have the facts. So what can be done to ensure that more states get on board? The key lies in grassroots efforts and advocacy by those who most benefit from accessible prescription labeling. Local state legislators rely on their constituents to bring forward the issues and solutions from their communities. Educating pharmacists on the availability of accessible prescription labels and their effectiveness in improving patient safety and healthcare outcomes is another important step to progress. We can overcome the challenges of yesterday with the technology of the future. It just starts with the right question: how can I make a difference?